Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind podcast. On this week's show, we are going to recap the 2024 ADCC West Coast Trials, the North American Trials, the second qualifier for North America for the men and the first for the 24 World Championships for the women. We are also going to talk about a few upcoming matches, including the One FC match between Tye Ruotolo and Isaac Michell. Talk about Kade Ruotolo, his brother, versus Francisco Lowe on that same card. Break down a few matches on Subversion that are coming up this next week, and some other events that have been announced. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, to my co-host,
Miranda.
How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I am amped. I'm so excited this week.
Yeah, you're overly
to
excited
talk about trials. We had some great trials matches, some great finals. I was upset I didn't get to go, but I did get to watch from the comfort of my own home. And man, did we watch a lot of trials?
Yes.
We broke down last week on last week's show, basically 950 names. We went through all of the top names in every division, and I'm gonna say, we picked a lot of them correctly.
Yeah, I think we did a good job, at least picking the standouts in each division.
Yeah, which is, again, pretty easy if you've watched the show, you've watched as many names as we have over the years, but I really enjoyed doing that. I've had a lot of fun. I actually got some good feedback of people that were impressed we were able to do that, and again, I love the feedback. Yeah. I love the comments. Try to respond to almost every comment we get. If you have a comment, love to hear it. I love to hear the comments late, like an hour and a half into the show, where someone makes a comment about something we say. I'm like, you listened that far? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the folks that give us messages, shoot us messages on grappling_rewind. If you ever just want to talk about grappling, that's where we do the show, and we love it. So before we get into the ADCC qualifiers, we're going to talk about all the finals matches, and then probably a select few things here and there for other notable matches on the weekend.
Yeah, because there were a few. Well, there was really one upset that I know of.
I mean,
there was one like big upset.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
The round one upset was Cody Linton over Devontae Johnson.
Oh,
that
okay.
was Team Alpha Male's wrestling coach beat Devontae Johnson,
which is crazy because Devontae usually makes it super deep into the trials.
Yeah, like that was a wild.
So
one.
We'll get into it again. Please keep in mind that for these giant events, this was a 2-day tournament that we had 950 athletes whittled down to plus 66, 77, 88, 99, plus 99. 55, 65, and 65 for the women. So one person in each of those divisions won out of 950 people. There's a lot of matches, a lot of people we're just not going to get a chance to touch on.
Yeah.
Because we've watched a lot of them, and we'll try to touch as much as we can, but we're definitely going to run through all of the finals for the tournament, because these are all your qualifiers, and generally speaking, most of them were pretty exciting and have a lot of takeaways.
Yeah.
And then maybe at the end of the show, we're going to get into, maybe talk about it next week. We're going to get into some criteria for who else is going to be invited, because we're done with most of the trials. We have, I think, 1 or 2 more trials left for the World Championships, but those are coming up in August. Do we have one more, or are we done, actually?
We have Asian, don't we?
We have the second Asian and Oceanic trials. I think that's the last trials we have left. So next week's show will be a kind of an off-week show. I have the eclipse I've got to go do. So we are going to do next week's show.
Well, you're not going to do the eclipse. You're going to go see the eclipse.
I'm going to go see the eclipse with my wife and my brother. We are going to break down every ADCC qualified person on next week's show.
Yeah.
So we're going to record it midweek. So because we've got to do 2 shows back-to-back this week behind the curtain for you guys. But we're going to run through they're qualified, why they're qualified. And then in that show, we're going to talk about some criteria for people that are potential invites, because after the World Championship qualifier this weekend, every comment on every thread is this guy should get an invite, this girl should get an invite, this person should get an invite. So this next week's show,
or if we follow what everybody says online, they should have their ticket punched.
Yeah, their ticket. I like that term. You hate that term. I love that term.
I don't care. Like for certain things,
for ADCC it makes sense.
For ADCC it makes sense. For every other organization out there that is now using that as their tagline, they can disappear. But that's just me being.
So next week's show, we're going to talk about who punched their ticket and who potentially is worthy of an invite.
Who's worth a punch?
Who's worth a punch?
And who's not worth a punch?
So
No
Speaking
punches.
speaking of people, let me get this back on the rails here.
Speaking of punches, can we talk about Andy Varela punching Kid?
We can talk about that in the
Okay.
outro
Okay.
on the other side effects of trials. So like John Combs, and I had to watch him puke one more time on Instagram. I love that dude, but man, I'm done watching that gif.
Yeah, I don't need that.
Speaking of guys that punched their ticket, Ethan Crelinsten this last week was announced. We were curious why he wasn't doing trials. We kind of thought he may be on the short list for an invite.
Yeah.
He is invited, so he is now in the men's under 66 kilogram division as an invite. Former trials winner, puts on exciting matches. Dude's looking yoked again. I hope to see him in the same shape we saw him in 2022.
He was like crazy shredded.
Dude, he's getting there too. He looks kind of similar again, and I am down for that level of jacked Ethan Crelinsten. So that's invites. Other news this week, we have Enigma announcing a main event between Max Hansen and Elijah Dorsey. Max Hansen did really well in the trials. Elijah Dorsey was the East Coast Trials winner at 77. So that is a matchup I'm super excited.
Max Hansen also has every single belt in the United States that isn't a significant belt.
Yeah, we call him the regional belt holder of America.
Yeah.
Essentially, he has most belts from 55 to about 85 in all divisions. There's a couple of divisions he doesn't have. Like Deandre Corbe has one over him, and there's a couple people that have divisions over him. But generally speaking,
but like Midwest finishers, all
if you have a regional belt in a promotion, Max Hansen has it. So I'm really excited to see that matchup versus Elijah Dorsey for Enigma.
Yeah.
Because Hansen has looked really good, and Elijah Dorsey looked phenomenal at East Coast trials. So that'll be a fun matchup. We also have GrappleFest 19 has been announced. I didn't see any names on that, but it is announced, and we love watching GrappleFest. So that does it for the news section of this week. It's Trials Week.
Yeah.
You know what we're going to get into. Miranda, where do you want to start this Trials Week? What do you got?
We'll just start where we're at.
We'll
start with the match that made me the most sad.
Men's 66 kilogram division, Deandre Corbe.
And it had to be last, and it had to make me sad.
Yeah. Deandre Corbe versus Keith Krikorian. Keith Krikorian now has 4 silvers at the trials and a gold. Keith Krikorian, so we'll talk about invites next week. If there is ever a guy that should be on the short list, it is Keith Krikorian.
Yeah.
Because, man, he is consistent when it comes to the qualifier.
He tapped like every single person up to this match. He tapped every single person.
We looked at his bracket.
By like less than 3 minutes.
And they had one match that went like 5:30. But
okay.
every other match, he had like 3 different matches that were under a minute.
Yeah.
He had a couple that were like a minute and a half. Like, he ran through everyone.
Yeah.
And then Deandre is just a monster. So Deandre is kind of local to us. He's at a standard jiu-jitsu. It's in Virginia. It's probably about 45, 50 minutes from me. A little longer for you.
Yeah, it's Montgomery County, which it takes forever to get down there just because of traffic.
Yeah, but both those brothers are out there. So, also, in Deandre's, by the way, I'm very excited this week. I apologize if the analysis suffers a bit from that.
Yeah, because he's going to jump around all over the place.
Yeah, this is a great weekend. We have hundreds and hundreds of matches that we watched, and I'm going to try to pare it down the best that we can for the moments and the athletes that we kind of want to touch on, but there is far too much that we could cover in an 85 or so minute show. So if I get excitable, I apologize. I'm going to try to keep it on the rails as much as possible, which is usually my job on the show.
Yeah, I'm normally the one that takes it off the rails.
Might have to be your job this week, Miranda. Deandre Corbe had to fight his brother.
Yeah.
In the semifinals. And then subbed his own brother. He beat his own brother.
Well,
a la Tye and Kade Rotolo.
I'm sure it's one of those situations where you also go into that knowing who's going to win. Like, you kind of know.
We've known Deandre. He's the older brother by a little bit, and he typically they swung. The
announcers were like, "We thought they could be twins." I was like, "What? Where are you at? What are you looking at?"
They look very different.
Yes.
So it was astonishing. It was a great match, and then you see Deandre like smack his brother on the chest, and it was a cool moment. You saw Gavin, his younger brother, very disappointed, but we've almost seen this match 3 different trials.
Yeah.
And this is the first trials we actually had to see it.
Yeah.
Super interesting to see kind of how those guys roll each other, but Deandre moved through.
And they both took out some considerable people in the way.
Oh yeah.
Deandre took out
Dominic Mejia.
And then
Gavin took out Dominic Mejia, who had beaten him on the previous trials.
And Deandre took out Gianni Grippo.
Yeah, which is not necessarily an upset, but definitely like those guys can easily go either way.
It's an upset.
Yeah,
like
probably.
Gianni Grippo is normally towards the finals, if not the semifinals, every single time.
So crazy. 66 will have tons of matches to go through. Again, 66 is my division, my people. And so I really enjoy watching them and keeping track of all of those guys. I think the technical ability of all those guys is just phenomenal everywhere, especially in ADCC. They can wrestle, they can legs, they can do it all, and it's really interesting. In this finals match, we very rarely see Krikorian make tactical mistakes. It's pretty rare. Like, he is a very smart grappler. He puts it together well. He is thoughtful in the way that he prepares for his matches. I've interviewed him a couple of different times. You could hear him in the interviews, especially when I interviewed him at West Coast Trials after he won West Coast Trials, talk about the changes of his strategy moving through a couple of silver medals in trials and like what he changed in order to win that. He very rarely makes tactical mistakes. In this match, he makes a brief tactical mistake that Deandre sort of not forced him into. But Keith basically goes for a takedown, and then Deandre stuffs Keith's wrestle up, essentially, and forces Keith to sit, and Keith goes for, he gets kind of caught in between the two and ends up essentially sitting too long and taking the -1. Now, in ADCC, in the trials, the matches are 3 minutes, no points. 3 minutes, points, and then if needed, if it's a 0-0 or it's tied going into the end of the regulation, it is an additional 3 minutes of points.
Yes.
If you pull guard in the point section, you take a -1.
Yeah.
If you pull guard in the overtime, you take a -1. But only in the point section during the preliminary matches. In the finals, that changes. It is a 4-minute match, it is a 4-minute no points, a 4-minute points, and then up to a 4-minute overtime. But at any point in time, if you pull, you'll get a negative. And Keith kind of seems to bobble his wrestle up, and Deandre is able to shove him back down. And props to Deandre, he knew exactly what he had to do there. And Keith takes a -1. And so Keith starts this match probably a minute or so in, essentially on the back foot, because now he's -1 point. In points in ADCC, a negative point is just that. It is -1 point to you. So essentially, if it's 0-0, your opponent has a point functionally on you, is how it sort of works out. It's not like IBGF does it with advantages or minuses. It is actually in ADCC a negative point. I find it a lot easier to kind of think about it that way. Krikorian's down. He immediately starts going into really, really great leg lock offense and like knee bars and beautiful different shots at a knee bar, different shots at the toe hold and the heel hook. He's going through. Deandre is just on top in a based out position, and he is defending both the knee line and the angle, and he is continually rolling through both front side on the hip and back side on the hip universally, and just getting in front of Krikorian's motion. And then Krikorian, still going for the leg locks, shoots down for an inside or outside heel hook, and Deandre does essentially a half sit, and then does I'm going to call it a berimbolo.
It's a bolo.
Yeah, it's essentially it's that berimbolo. It's what we saw.
Normally they do it from De La Riva.
Yeah.
It's normally the De La Riva version.
It's exactly what we saw Felipe Pena hit on Gordon Ryan in 2016 at Studio 540. It's that you go for the heel hook and they take your back off of it. It is the current meta for leg locks. We've seen in the last 3 trials it happen at almost every final and almost every semifinal. Like, this sequence happens. Someone goes for a heel hook and someone rolls through and counter essentially berimbolos to the back, and Deandre's able to score the back mount there and get 3 points. And then the last 4 minutes of the match, where just Deandre, and he scores one more time.
Because that's Keith tries to get out, gets one leg out, gets one hook out, and then the hook goes back in.
He clears the hip line. So in ADCC, you can also rack score. So ADCC does not have combination scoring, so that if I pass your guard into mount, I'm only going to receive the pass. I'm not going to receive the mount points as well. So you can't combination score, but you can rack score. If I have a body triangle from the back, a scoring position in ADCC, or the hooks in, and then I open your hip line and free your hip line for 3 seconds, and then I'm able to get my hooks back in, I will score 3 points for the back mount again in ADCC. And that's what happens here. Keith starts to escape, clears the hip line, and John is able to get his hips back in line. Keith does a great job defending this back take and defending the choke the entire time. And I was really impressed with Deandre here in his ability to stay on Keith's back. Keith, again, has years in that 10th Planet system and that style of like those guys we know in the EBI rule set spend years in the gym defending the back, working on escaping the back, and basically getting out of that scoring position in EVI overtime. So for Deandre to be able to stay on Krikorian's back for this long and prevent being shucked off, being pushed off, and rolled over is really, really indicative of just how good Deandre Corbe is for a guy like Krikorian who's been in the finals of trials.
Yeah.
He's been at World Championships in 19 and in 22.
And unfortunately, we couldn't really see a lot of it because it was in the dark.
Yeah, I wish that we had some more lights. It was... all the finals were very, very dark. Kind of reminded me of what I didn't like about the IBGF GP, where it was so dark. A couple matches
because
were really
if you're
bad.
going to allow people to go out of bounds, you at least need some sort of lighting in the out of bounds area, so that we don't pull the whole. Who's next final where we have people
in a broom closet,
people wrestling in a broom closet.
Yeah, that one. I wish we had some more lighting because it was the finals were annoyingly kind of dark, and I would like again for a showcase event like this. This is a huge. This is one of the biggest events of the year aside from the World Championships. This is a qualifier for.
Yeah.
It's a massive event with all of your top names in the division in the North America here.
Well, I think the other thing that they did on this one, as I look at it, is when we were at East Coast, they kept the people back more.
Yeah.
This one, they allowed the people on the mats
Which
a little bit further in, which is like a wrestling tournament. That's what they do at wrestling tournaments. But
I love it.
If you're going to do that, you need more lighting.
Yeah. I love how all these finals, I'm upset we didn't go, but it was going to be almost $2,000 for my wife and I to go. And I was like, and we're going to Vegas in August for the World Championships. And I was like, I can't swing it.
Yeah.
I was trying to buy a house and all that good stuff. So, but I would love to sit on the mat again at an ADCC finals event. So this was phenomenal. Deandre has looked good for a couple of years now. He's looking in IBGGF, in Pan's IBGGF, and all the Nogi events. Like him and his brother have both looked phenomenal, and this is just more of the same from Deandre.
And finishers. I think he's a finisher. He's a finisher.
And Enigma.
Yeah, he won Enigma recently.
Yep.
He punched his ticket to the $100,000
Zapatero Enigma event. Yep.
Enigma event, and then I believe he's a champ in finishers.
I think that is correct. He used to be, at least.
Yeah.
So it's phenomenal. Deandre looks great. Keith looks great. Again, I think you got to put Keith on that short list 2 times at the Worlds and 5-time trials medalist, 4-time silver, 1-time gold.
Butchered his entire division.
Oh yeah, just murdered through his side of the bracket, and it was in truly impressive fashion.
Yeah. And then he goes into the 3rd place match. Or no, he doesn't.
No, because
he wasn't.
Yeah.
No, it was semifinals where he went through Holy.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, that's a rematch. It's a many-time rematch, and Krikorian really has figured out that matchup well. But yeah, again, phenomenal. We didn't even talk about like Damian Anderson, Johnny Grippo's run, like all of those guys, Holy's run, Dominic Mejia, all of those guys were in this tournament as well. Put on phenomenal performances against the field.
Well, I think it's also now that they're weighting things, it makes more sense that they put on dominant performances because you're not getting the matches that sometimes you would get in
earlier brackets.
Brackets
because there's so many people.
Yeah, you would get a match that probably should have been a semis in quarterfinals or in round of 200 and something because they weren't bracketed the same way they are now.
I think the bracketing all the brackets we saw I thought they looked really good.
I like the random madness. So
I like it seeded. It feels like a real. It's a real tournament.
I don't like the seeded. I like the madness. I want the you don't know who the hell you're about to get kind of crazy.
Yeah. I think
because this way I feel like you're making your people that are brand new like go against a world champion round 1.
Hey man, but also for this tournament I think it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because you have to beat the guy anyway.
True,
and I think a lot of the top guys I've talked to for this tournament, I'll talk about. He goes, I don't care when I get him because I have to beat him anyway.
Yeah.
And for other tournaments where it like kind of seeds out differently, every guy I've talked to and asked that question, I think that I can think of and it always kind of surprises me that mentality. They go, I was going to beat him anyway. And you're like, oh, that makes sense. You don't really care where you get him because you were going to beat him anyway. Like that, you have to beat him. But yeah, you like the madness, Miranda, and I respect that.
I like crazy. I like a little bit crazy.
Let's move on. Oh, hell yeah. Okay.
This is the match that Maine is most excited for.
Yeah.
So he will talk really fast and probably very loud.
I'm going to try to slow it down again. I haven't got feedback from that in a while, but I realized I've been getting excited on the show recently and speak a little quickly. Men's 77 kilogram final. Andrew Tackett versus Oliver Taza. Andrew Tackett, the man who probably had the most pressure on him because everyone picked him at East Coast. He couldn't do East Coast because he was injured.
Yeah.
Everyone had him as like, yeah, he's probably the guy.
Yeah.
And again, we saw that dominant performance over PJ Barcher, who's number one. Then we didn't see the Mika Galvao matchup because he was injured. And we went, okay, where's his ceiling? Like, we know nobody has ever done that to Barch.
Yeah.
How good is Andrew Tackett? Can he make a full run? Can he get it done all the way? He is now essentially in his brother's West Coast Trials division because William Tackett, who also won here, is at 88 kilograms. Yeah. So 2 years ago at the West Coast Trials in 2022, William Tackett won this division, his older brother. And now Andrew Tackett's in his division, and we're going, well, can Andrew Tackett win the division that his brother is the former West Coast Trials champion at? Spoiler, yes.
Yeah.
Spoiler, he looked phenomenal.
And his hair looked even better.
It did. He fixed his hair a bunch, so the commentary kept giving him, like, not giving him shit, but like mentioning it. I fixed the hair. And I loved it. Again, big shout out to Big J and Jake Watson on commentary. I love hearing them on commentary. I love the energy that Watson brings and the technical knowledge. And I love Big J with being such a huge piece of ADCC and the U.S. events and being one of the head judges and referees there. The knowledge that he has and the way that he was able to bring it up on commentary where he would sort of tell you what he saw, but he would never go, it's going to be, he would never definitively say, even though Big J absolutely knows definitively what it should be, he would always do the good commentary thing and go, like, it is still up to the judges because he was not judging. Like, not a lot of guys at his level can do that because they get kind of full of themselves, and it's awesome to hear Big J on the mic still be one of the best in the business. And so I would love to hear Big J on all the finals for trials because he is such a good ADCC commentator. Moving on.
Okay.
Andrew Tackett is phenomenal here. At one point early in the match, he jumps a flying triangle on Oliver Taza, who was trying to wrestle more than we've seen him in the past, and actually looked way better on the wrestling than we've seen him in the past, and that's kind of historically been in ADCC Oliver Taza's Achilles heel. Is like his kind of inability or unwillingness to stand up wrestle for long stretches of time effectively. Andrew Tackett jumps a flying triangle. Then and again, we're in the finals. So if he pulls when a flying triangle jump is a guard pull, he's going to get a -1. He then turns it into a leg entry. Yeah. He then turns it into inversion. Then he turns it into a wrestle up. And then Oliver Taza puts him down. Yeah. And he's able to invert and roll through and come up and at no point be controlled on the mat for 3 seconds in order to not get scored on.
Yeah.
This is a sequence.
It was pretty wild.
That I could not pick 10 guys in this tournament that could do this. Like, there might be 10 that can do it. Like, Varella's up there, like Deandre, Keith. Like, maybe can do this sequence. But, man, this was a textbook display of, like, hey, it's awesome to be 19. Yeah. And be just a freak prime athlete with great coaching and training and 3 brothers that train.
But I don't think this was even coaching. This was just...
You're lost in the sauce. You're feeling yourself.
Yeah, this was just, like... I need to stay up.
Yeah, man.
I will find any way to be there.
It was amazing. It was amazing. In my notes is in all caps to not get fucking scored on.
Yeah.
In quotes, good shit. It was amazing. The sequel, watch the sequence. It was just a wild. It was Mika Galvao-esque in the way that he sort of just threw caution to the wind, and then when it didn't, when the kind of the quick sub flying triangle didn't work, he was able to turn it into another sequence that resulted in him not being scored on, not losing anything, and then being up clearly in the judges' scorecards. And I give it to
Oliver Taza for staying upright during the entire thing. Because he stayed upright. Like, Tackett was, like, flying around him like a little spider monkey, and Taza somehow didn't fall to his butt at any point.
No.
Which, I mean, good on him.
I mean, how many Trials finals has Taza been in?
Yeah.
Like, he's also a Trials winner, European Trials winner. He's a 3 or 4 time silver medalist. Like, he's right up there with Krikorian. We'll talk about his pick next week. Again, he's another guy on a short list. Yeah. And we'll talk about, I think we'll go into detail next week on Taza and like, well, he can do more trials. Yeah. It's like, yeah, but he shows that he's one of the top guys in the region every time in both regions. That should count for something. Andrew Tackett, man. Then Andrew Tackett goes, it's wrestling time.
Yeah.
And repeatedly is able to get Taza like scrambled down, and Taza, to his credit, never concedes. We never see him just focused on entering into the legs and getting hell-bent on the heel hook and the knee bar that we've seen him really fall into getting tunnel visioned on in the past. Like, we saw a huge, I'm going to say improvement in Taza's game planning and like positional game planning.
And the last time we saw Tackett compete, which was who's number one?
Yeah. Versus Barch.
Yeah, we saw him play a lot of the top game. So we are seeing him bring the top game more into his world and not play that
No, we saw Taza versus Tyne and Dowpra.
Oh, that was what it was.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you said Tackett. My bad.
No. Talking about Taza.
Yeah.
And being on top, because that seems to be a newer thing, and he's really, really good at it.
Yeah, I mean, you do not get this far in this many trials. Again, at 77, one of the most stacked divisions in the tournament without being very good everywhere. There's not a place you can put Oliver Taza, and he's not going to be world class.
Yeah.
He's been to the World Championships before. He's been on that level. He is on that level. He's in one of the best camps in the sport at New Wave with Gordon, with John, with Helena Cravar now, with Big Dan, with Lou Griffith, with pick all of your Giancarlo Bodoni, who's a guy always forgets at New Wave, like champion there. Murgali, like all of those guys in that room are truly world class, and we're seeing Taza be, great everywhere. But Andrew Tackett, man, he takes Taza down in the no point section, so in the first 4 minutes of the match, with a clean takedown. It's kind of a blast double knee pick to the side. He gets Taza down. Taza's able to get back up, and then we see in the points period, we see them go into more takedowns. And we see Taza starting to be the aggressor on the takedowns, which is cool because, again, we know Taza can wrestle. You don't get to this level without being able to do it, but we've seen him in the past seemingly much more hesitant to wrestle. We saw him versus Tyne and Dowpra, much more wrestling. We were kind of surprised that Tynan was willing to wrestle with him as much there, but we've seen kind of Taza open up his game, be much more willing and much more capable. Not even willing, just capable as a wrestler in a way that we've always wanted him to do, always wanted him to be, and now we're starting to see it. And I'm curious where that's going to go here, but man, having that youth on your side, and having the ability to just not settle your hips and have crazy balance and flexibility.
People that are like that are horrible to roll with. They're no fun. We used to, Greg at Method used to be, I mean, still is like that. His hips just don't, like, even if you get him down, it's not going to happen. Like,
very willing. He's unwilling to settle his hips down. Taza hits essentially he takes him down. And then Andrew Tackett goes, inverts over, does a headstand, and then in the counter as Taza's continuing, Taza's doing a great job of continuing to run him down.
He almost does, like, when they do the back roll to a handstand.
Back hamstring.
Like, he almost does that.
He does that. Because what Taza does here, sorry, not Taza, what Tackett does here in this transition is he's down, and they're almost in dogfight. Tackett steps back over Oliver Taza's hips, gets above his hips, and then he bridges, doesn't really bridge, but like posts on his hands and rotates his hips over Taza's hips to end up, again, on top of them, and he's able to settle Taza down.
Do you know who actually teaches that when I think about this?
Who?
This was on J Flow's Instagram a little bit ago, because I tagged it because I was like, I want to learn how to do that.
It's really good. Then he gets his back, he scores, and that's the match. No submission here, but it just shows that Tackett's on the level. Taza, we know, is on the level. But man, I am super curious who they're going to throw Tackett up against the World Championships first round, because we could have another Kenta Iwamoto situation where it's like you throw him against a really good guy and he goes, hey man, I can wrestle real good, and you didn't expect that. We kind of know Tackett's a very known quantity now, but I'm still super, super excited to see him here in the World Championships, winning, punching his ticket, fixing his hair. He looks super clean. I think we're only going to see him improve. I really hope that he's a young athlete. I'm always concerned with young athletes and injuries as a guy with a back problem myself. I really hope that he gets that sorted. We know he's had that back problem since he was like 15. I really hope that it's like, early career young and it's taken care of. That's probably not the case, but I hope that's the case. And so I hope that Tackett is good and healthy, because man, he looks truly world class here. I want to see the Micah match still. I would love to see that before ADCC. I'd love to see that at ADCC. I'd love to see it after ADCC. But man, he is something else. Dat boy wrestling. Those are my notes. So anything else on 77, Miranda?
No.
Let's talk about his brother. 88 kilogram final, which is a rematch between William Tackett, who is the former West Coast Trials 77 champion, versus J-Rod, the former men's under 88 kilogram champion.
Yeah.
So this is essentially a battle of two different West Coast Trials champions, both who are in the World Championships in 2022.
Yeah.
And William Tackett now up a weight class. And William Tackett beat Jay Rodriguez in the consolation bracket. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, third place match of the consolation bracket of East Coast Trials by a footlock.
Yeah.
We knew Jay Rodriguez had been had been heel hooked by Jacob Couch in an earlier match, so he knew he was injured there, and Tackett knew he was injured, quickly leg locked him.
Yeah.
And we kind of, when we broke down that final...
Yeah, because he didn't really defend it. He just tapped him.
He immediately tapped him. We were like, okay, he had to have an injury, and that's from the Couch leg lock. William Tackett kind of knows that J-Rod is a monster.
Yeah.
He's fought him before, and he seems to know that the toe holds and the leg locks are a weakness of Jay Rodriguez, kind of much like his brother, early career.
Now I have a question.
Yeah.
Who has better hair, Andrew Tackett or Jay Rodriguez? Because
Andrew Tackett. Wait, Andrew Tackett is better. I thought you said William Tackett.
No,
Andrew Tackett.
Andrew
obviously.
Tackett, or because J-Rod has like the longer hair nowadays.
Yeah.
We don't have a picture of him, but
Andrew Tackett.
you think Andrew Tackett's hair is better?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I
like to add a little,
a little fun,
a little
Miranda pizzazz,
a little fun into it.
into the
'Cause you have
show.
to think about other things going on.
Not just the power toe hold that we couldn't figure out the name of.
Yeah, it's something. It's if you have a better name for it.
Yeah.
It's like a two-handed power toe hold.
Yeah.
It's some wild shit.
Tackett comes out quick. And so we were talking about in the pre-show here, a technical decision that J-Rod makes in his wrestling. Like, J-Rod is almost very willing with his stance to not defend you trying to jump his back.
Yeah.
Because I think, and we kind of thought, that it was because he's going to Granby out, or he's going to transition out, or he's going to beat your hips in the roll and like beat you in. You're going to try to take him down, you're going to shock him by, and then he's going to he's going to beat you.
He doesn't have any urgency in that position at all.
And he also doesn't like super diligently fight underhooks to block you from coming behind him and getting to the back body lock.
Yeah.
It's an odd thing that he seems to do tactically, and it usually works out very fine for him. We see him in this match. William Tackett literally gets a half not crab ride, like a half highball ride on his back, and then Jay Rodriguez shucks him off the top, stands up, gets him off, and seemingly no worse for wear. But then immediately Tackett comes out again, takes him down. Again, it's a non-scoring takedown.
Yeah.
And then J-Rod is in side control, and we know J-Rod's a slow starter. He has always been a slow starter. Like, look at his match with Giancarlo Bodoni. He ends that match on Bodoni's back.
Yeah.
The first huge section of that match is Bodoni just putting it into J-Rod. We know he's a slow starter. Look at the match he won West Coast Trials at last time. Hunter Colvin was up on points. He's able to sub Hunter Colvin with a buggy choke, who's also in this tournament, to win that finals. He's a slow starter. William Tackett, in the transition of J-Rod getting out of the side control, goes to reverse mount, almost like donkey guard mount.
Yeah.
And then J-Rod crosses his feet, but they're right in front of Tackett. And traditionally in this position, you have two things you can get. You can get either toe hold or you can get a knee bar. But because William Tackett is locked all the way around Jay Rodriguez's body, there's no knee bar. You have to fall off for the knee bar, and then Jay Rodriguez is absolutely going to get out in that transition. And so William Tackett does, okay, I'm going to go for this toe hold. But because Jay Rodriguez's feet are together and they're up next to William Tackett's face, he can't power grip. He can't do the figure four grip on the toe hold. So what William Tackett does is pretty ingenious. And I've never seen anyone else do this. He has Jay Rodriguez's leg with the knee on the mat. So basically he's crossed. They're on their one hip. Jay Rodriguez has one knee on the mat. William Tackett grabs the top end of Jay Rod's foot and pushes down. And it's a toe hold motion, but it's a one-arm toe hold. It's the motion you start with the hands on the toes as you're pushing down, and then you'll lock your hands together and power finish. But because the foot is so high up, William Tackett can't reach under Jay Rodriguez's foot to grab his own forearm to push down a toe hold. So he reaches up with the other hand on the top of his own hand that are on the toes and pulls down while he pushes down with the other foot. And it's a one-arm toe hold. And there's two ways from this position you can do a one-arm toe hold, because the knee is blocked in the mat and they can't move their knee. You either do it with the one hand or you do it with the top hand. William Tackett does it with both hands.
Yeah.
So it's essentially a two-hand, one-arm toe hold. Like, both mechanisms are from the one arm, but he just powers through with both arms and over. It's not a power toe hold.
And it's kind of
looks like a power toe hold.
But it's kind of also like how you'd hit a wrist lock when you trap their elbow on the mat.
That's a really good analogy.
And you push into it.
Yeah.
It's a wrist lock, but of a foot.
Yeah, it's a full lock, as the Brazilians love to say, a full lock.
Yeah.
I've had a coach before where it's just everything was just a full lock. It's what is it? It's a full lock.
Yeah.
And you're just like, that's very unhelpful for me. But it's like, it's a full lock, and everything heel hook, foot lock, toe hold, foot lock. It's all full lock.
Yeah.
It's a foot lock. It's a wrist lock of the toe, which is the toe hold.
Twisting foot lock.
But it's such a unique way to be able to get this finish because William Tackett's legs are around him.
Yeah, and you're in a safe position, so you're not even really worrying about him grabbing your arms, because a lot of times you can't do that overhand grip because you're afraid they're going to grab your arm from that position, but because
they'll loop under, grab your elbow.
But because he's facing he looks like he's looking at J-Rod's ass in the picture that we have. Like J-Rod,
we're looking at a screenshot from 4:58 left in the match.
You can't J-Rod absolutely has no idea what the fuck's going on.
So typically what happens in this position is they end up in double reverse mount.
Yeah.
And you basically end up with this double spider crab position, but J-Rod hasn't been able to pummel his feet outside to grab William Tackett's torso yet, and Tackett capitalized on it. But it's wild. Again, we know Tackett's been a good footlocker. We know J. Rodriguez has historically struggled a little bit with the footlocks. But man, this is... Rematches in jiu-jitsu are interesting because sometimes they do not... In MMA, they typically go the way that we went the first time. Like, matchups don't change typically that much. There's definitely places you can point to, but overall, the matchup is pretty much the same. It is interesting in jiu-jitsu when you see kind of something similar as well in the same kind of tournament like this. So, William Tackett moves on. Again, J-Rod, you can make an argument. He deserves that spot. We'll talk about that on next week's show when we talk about all the ADCC qualifiers so far. Multiple-time trials medalist, West Coast Trials, almost West Coast Trials champion, aside from William Tackett moving up a division. Very, very interesting tournament. But anything else technical in the match?
Nope.
Moving on to men's under 99 kilogram division. I have a section of notes here, but
this is some bullshit.
The main note is, let's talk about the sweep.
Yep, it's some bullshit.
This is basically Michael Pixley early. So, give you the dynamics of the match.
Did you know that Michael Pixley, he was an NCAA champion, but he went to McKendree?
I did. I knew that. I know that because you have told me.
Yes.
That is the only reason I know that, Miranda, is because you have gone, here's Michael Pixley's information. Like 2 years ago, you gave me all the information.
Yeah. Just because it's good to know these kind of things.
Michael Pixley is a good wrestler.
He's a very good wrestler.
He's long, he's lanky.
And Adam Bradley was Atos formerly. And then did he come to B Team just to piss off Gordon Ryan?
I don't know. Because him and Gordon have beef back and forth for years. It seemed almost in good fun beef at a certain point.
He didn't have the curly mustache.
He didn't. His look was a little different.
I think the mustache would brought him superpowers.
Like Samson? His hair grows?
Yeah, I think he needs the mustache back. Okay, we'll talk about
You threw me off, Miranda.
We did. We'll talk about the sweep.
The dynamics of the match. So Pixley's a long, tall guy. Bradley's a little bit stockier, strong.
Yeah.
Former Atos black belt. If not former Atos. He's former Atos, black belt on Andre Galvao. He moved around a little bit. He's been some places, but now he is out of B Team. I don't know how long he's been at B Team, but he is repping B Team here. And
I think he's been there for a bit.
Okay. I knew he'd moved around a little bit. This match is Pixley with better wrestling generally, which is understandable given Pixley's pedigree. And then later, at the end of regulation, Michael Pixley is looking for Adam Bradley's back. Bradley does a great job of defending. He shucks to the side, and then Pixley is sort of between the back, and then Adam Bradley is looking for the deep half.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, and this is something that if you're curious about what we talk about, go back and watch it for yourself, and then watch the ADCC rules video.
So this is the only thing I do have to say that we didn't think about, or I didn't think about exactly when we looked at it. Well, I guess it's still the ending is the part that matters, because technically, like when he's under the one side of the leg, he's in deep half. It doesn't really fucking matter if dude has his head. He's in deep half, even in one leg. So then when he moves to like the full deep half that you generally go to, right? And then he he waiter sweeps him down.
Yeah, Adam Bradley
Then he
essentially waiter sweeps Michael Pixley over with about 9 seconds.
Yeah, but we can't really tell because the clock that we're looking at is not the correct clock.
It's close, but it's slightly off.
Yeah.
It's within 3 seconds, but for this particular match,
Yeah.
these 3 seconds matter. So Bradley, we'll say for the purpose of the discussion here, Pixley is on the back, and then he's not on the back, and Bradley at some point goes to a guard, and he is under, and Pixley is essentially no longer on the back. And this is we're talking about the back mount because if you remember AJ Agazarm's match at the World Championships in 2022, this is what AJ was arguing about. Is like he was a takedown, but at a certain point it became a back take defense, and it was no longer a takedown. So once the position changed to being a different position, so that's why this matters in our discussion. It ends up not mattering for the thing we're going to talk about next, but a sweep happens. Adam Bradley gets under Michael Pixley with less than 15 seconds left. He sweeps him over in one continuous motion, which is a criteria for ADCC, and then he sits Michael Pixley down, and then he starts driving forward. And so for ADCC, that from the bottom position, because they are chest to chest, or they are facing each other, Pixley is no longer on the back, because had Bradley come over and Pixley was still on the back and they weren't chest to chest, it wouldn't be a sweep, but Pixley being on top, chest to chest, facing with Bradley, and then a continuous motion occurring, causes it to be what would start to be scored as a sweep. Then Bradley comes up and starts to drive. Pixley, basically we're arguing for a half second.
Yeah.
Pixley then, this is what I'm guessing the judges saw. Pixley then, 2.5 seconds, bucks Bradley over, and then Bradley begins defending a counter sweep, and then settles back down.
See, I don't see... I see Adam Bradley holding him down the entire time. He had his hips down. He starts to try to elevate him, but he's not elevating him. He puts his head down so he has more weight into him. And he's holding his hips down.
Yeah.
And
this is the argument. This is the discussion. This is some
bullshit because Adam Bradley should have won.
So if he controls Pixley here for 3 seconds, he wins. I see it as, and so when I've judged in ADCC prior for other things, sometimes it can go on for like 30 seconds.
This is the only time that I'll ever say this, but IBJJF had it right because they would have gave him an advantage and he would have fucking won.
In ADCC, you have to control for 3 seconds, and I think the argument is for the judges here that he is Bradley because his head is still driven down, and Pixley is still attempting to tech out and get his shoulders up. It's like Bradley has not fully controlled the position for 3 seconds. The ADCC is big on that. You have to fully control for 3 full seconds, and I think that's what they're seeing. That's if I were to judge this, and I've had similar matches like this happen in Costa Mesa and in Dallas, I wouldn't have scored this either, but there are plenty of ways, and how you're seeing it, there's plenty of people that scored it. There's plenty of people that wouldn't have scored it. Big J on the mic. Thought it was a sweep. And potentially would have scored that. And he is the head judge and referee for ADCC. Or one of them in North America. So we're arguing essentially about a half second of control. It is very hard to figure out exactly from what point you cause control. And it's a very controversial match.
They go into overtime. Adam Bradley initiates all the takedown attempts in overtime, and then somehow Michael Pixley wins.
So that's the match.
That's the match.
That's men's on 9. Michael Pixley takes it. He moves on for Patago. Punches his ticket to the World Championship. It'll be interesting
Nothing
to see
against
him.
Michael Pixley. I have no problem with him. I just think...
You wanted to see Bradley get the sweep.
I wanted to see the sweep, and then I think that, plus the fact that he was initiating everything in overtime...
Should have won him
should have won him that match.
The wrestling early. This is a very good match if you want to see a super close ADCC match that can go either way for any particular reason.
If you want to
just
just
match to watch.
If you want to just scream, that's some bullshit at your TV. It's a good match to watch.
Moving on to plus 99, we have Vince. He gave us his name.
Pizzuto.
Pizzuto, thank you. Versus Mike Perez. What'd you say Mike Perez weighed in at?
So Andre Galval said it was. He said it was
174 pounds?
No, 178 pounds.
178 pounds.
80. Give me a second. Let me see what I sent you.
You sent me something.
So he said, Galval said he weighed in at 81 kilograms, which is 178 pounds. But then somebody else.
You texted me 4, that's why.
Yeah. Well, no, but that was the first one, and this was the second one. There was 2.
Oh, okay.
I was checking multiple locations because I was trying to see if it was right. Somebody said... Earlier, it said he was 174, and then Galval, when he posted, because he was like, this is my student. My student won plus 99. He only weighs 81 kilograms.
Right.
And I was like, okay, Galvao probably knows what his dude weighs. I would hope. You know.
So this is plus 99. By the way, plus 99 is 220 and above.
Yeah.
So he's given up probably 50 plus pounds here.
Yeah.
And Miranda as Vince looks a little bit like Aquaman in the movie.
Yes.
And Miranda, in all of our notes, keeps referring to as Aquaman.
Yeah.
Shout out to Vince, man. You made an impression again. We've seen him at B Team before. I am completely blanking on what we've seen him on before. And if anyone knows what we've seen him on before, can someone let us know?
I bet you it was like a team event.
I don't remember, because I remember he has a very distinct look.
He looks like Aquaman.
He looks like Aquaman. And he's very good, and this match essentially was a wrestling matchup. The two big things that happened in this match. One, in the video we can't see it. In the live match on the Flow Zone, you could see it, or there's a takedown that goes into the crowd that Perez has a front headlock on in overtime. But essentially, Vince takes kind of a low outside, or like an inside shot, but doesn't drive through, and Mike Perez essentially front headlocks him. And you called it a cow catcher, but we were like, it's not technically a cow catcher, but the motion's the same.
It's a
front headlock turnover.
It's a front headlock, yeah.
Yeah. And Perez, which we know Perez, coming from Matos, with Hinger and Galvao and all those guys, has a really, really dangerous front headlock. Perez just
Vince was at Aiga.
Okay. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
It was Aiga. Okay. Oh, that's why. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. This makes sense now.
Aiga.
And Perez basically turns him over. It ends up being non-scoring, and then in overtime, and there's a lot of standing, pushing. It's a plus 99 match. That is majority of the matches we see at plus 99 kilograms. That is the tone of the match, because big guys don't want to get taken down, and rely a lot of times on the shot sprawl turn versus the blast double on guys. We saw it occasionally in Brazilian trials, but
Mike Perez looks like a little man next to Aquaman.
Oh yeah, visibly 50 to 70 pounds smaller.
Yeah.
Like it looks like an absolute bracket. And then Mike Perez, back in bounds, hits a really good snap down guillotine that he holds for like 40 seconds, and then to knock it to -1, because it would be a guard pull, he's able to get up in that 3 seconds, which is really great for Perez.
But even if it's initiating a takedown, initiating a attack?
Yeah, but even then, it's an attack to guard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's an attack to a pull. And that's why, because Vince here is still in the guillotine, Perez isn't getting scored on.
Yeah.
It's only when he gets his head out, then the 3 second counter starts for being scored the negative. And so, because a lot of times what they talk about in the referees meeting and the rules meetings is if someone takes you down, you grab a Kimura.
Yeah.
And they have to clear the Kimura before they score. The same thing with you initiating.
Yeah.
They have to clear before they score. The negative for you, essentially. The -1 for you. And then that's the match, essentially. Perez takes it, clean decision, because of his initiation, because of the turnover on the guillotine. Those were the two biggest moments of the match. I would have loved to see Vince in Perez's guard actively pass a little more.
Yeah.
He really seemed like he wanted to avoid Perez going to K guard or inverting underneath. I didn't see a lot of Perez's earlier matches in the day, but I'm guessing that's what he was hitting a lot of guys with. So Vince played it really smart, keeping his knees down, but wasn't able to initiate really any passing opportunities through Perez's guard, and that's what loses him the match, is because Perez has had those more stronger initiations in the takedown sequences and on the guillotine. And so because Vince wasn't able to aggressively attack the guard, Perez takes a really clean decision here. But non-scoring, as is not uncommon for plus 99. So, anything else for the men's division, Miranda?
Nope.
Now we move into the ladies divisions, the first and only, unfortunately, qualifier for the women for North America. We have Jasmine Hocha defeating Alex Enriquez. I have a note, like her dad.
Yeah.
This was a fun match back and forth. Alex Enriquez, we saw her win the East Coast Trials. Very, very good grappler out of Atos, Atlanta. Jasmine Hocha is Wagner Hocha's oldest child. And we've seen her at numerous trials, looking really good, looking like okay. She's had some rough matches here and there, but generally speaking, has been looking better and better and better and better. And we were all kind of going internally, eventually she's going to win one. Like, she's on that level, and we're seeing the rate that she's improving. She's a new black belt, and this is the one. Biggest moment in this match is essentially Jasmine is on the bottom,
Yeah.
and then Alex Enriquez is looking to pass, and then Jasmine just does what her dad does and kind of kicks Alex Enriquez in the chest.
The shoulder, yeah.
The shoulder.
Chest.
And then what a lot of the guys I see do, typically men, they'll kick away and they'll look or they'll stand up and tech up. Jasmine does what her dad does. Kicks you away, and then as you kind of reel back, she immediately drives up into you and sweeps and takes her down. And it was a beautiful sequence because it's using that. I don't like people like doing the clubbing and the kicking unless you are actually going to be doing something with it. If you have that aggressive move and like push or kick into someone, you should be required to do something. This is exactly what Jasmine Hocha does.
Yeah.
She kicks Alex Enriquez over, she reels back, and then she immediately wrestles up. She picks Alex Enriquez's outside leg and shoves her over, and then finishes the wrestle up, and then is able to get the back off of this sequence, and then locks in a rear naked choke. Alex Enriquez fights valiantly for a while, but Jasmine Hocha is on the neck, and it is deep, and eventually gets the choke at 7:32.
Yep.
Really, really impressive sequence. Again, we knew Jasmine was going to take it. I love the rate that we are seeing Jasmine improve, because this is not the same Jasmine that we saw at East Coast Trials 3 years ago. You know,
I agree.
She looks like a completely different grappler. We saw her take some really close matches in that. This was not. This was a really dominant performance from Rocha. I'm very curious what she's going to look like. Again, she also has that experience now against the champion of Ffion Davies, which wasn't a super competitive and close match, but I find that when you have younger athletes, like kind of prodigy athletes like Jasmine, now a new black belt, having those early career really tough matches with the upper echelon people typically results to them taking big levels of improvement. Like, hey, this I felt as good as it gets now, and now I can move up and change my game and make improvements in a way that I just couldn't before because I was fighting at my level. I think Jasmine will rise to the occasion, and I'm really, really curious to see what she looks like at the World Championships. Moving on to the women's under 65, missing a 5 there.
I know, under 6 kilos.
Under 6 kilos, under 65 kilograms.
That's a really small person.
We had Helena Crevar versus Mo Black. This is another rematch.
Yeah.
Of the under 65 kilogram division on East Coast Trials, where Mo Black took that one in pretty impressive fashion.
Yeah.
But because Mo Black really forced Crevar, played a beautiful game planned match.
Yeah.
And she never let Crevar in the East Coast Trials match. She never let Crevar really get comfortable and never really allowed her to play the guard she wanted to. She forced Crevar to wrestle, and then Mo Black was a better wrestler. Crevar did not make the same mistake.
Yeah.
I was curious. We've kind of been curious because Crevar is so heavily reliant on the guard. She is so heavily reliant on the early pull.
Yeah.
She gets that -1 in the finals. And we watched her take that at East Coast Trials, and that's inevitably what kind of lost her that match was that -1. I was curious. Again, Crevar being so confident in her closed guard and in her open guard too, if she would be willing to take that -1 again, and she didn't.
Yeah.
She didn't this time. We saw her wrestle. We saw her more comfortable in the wrestling.
Yeah.
It seems like something in watching her grapple here that she has prioritized. Like, she knew she was going to end up in the finals again.
Yeah.
She knew that the wrestling, that she would have to have it. It was no longer going to be an option because she's now putting herself in a position to be in these finals of these divisions at both the Opens and at the Trials and potentially the World Championships, where that -1 is going to be the deciding factor because it has been before. So it's really nice to see her kind of prioritizing her stand-up wrestling and looking way more comfortable in this rematch. Like, this looked like a bridge too far at East Coast Trials. This was going to involve large tactical and technical adjustments to Crevar's game. Come West Coast Trials, she made all of them.
Yeah.
I was really, really impressed. Crevar, most interesting piece of this match was Crevar hits a failed Uchimata, then inverts, basically rolls through all the way, and then is able to go to the legs and then come up and then come back up for 2 on Mo Black. It was a really, really nice sequence, but again, it came off of Crevar initiating a takedown in a way that we just didn't see her have any comfort doing at East Coast Trials. And then the last turnover is essentially a really nice snap down that she snaps Mo down into mount.
Yeah.
Results had it, I think, as 4-0. I think this would have been Crevar going to mount or a clean takedown, so it would have been a 4-point series.
Yeah.
Crevar's not going to score for the mount. She's only going to score for the final clean takedown. A clean takedown in ADCC is a takedown that you end up past the legs. Yeah. So if you end up in the guard, it's 2 points.
Mount or side control.
Mount or side control, essentially. Actually, the only places you can score mount or side control. Technically, north-south as well.
Yeah.
But she would score 4 points for this sequence, so she would end this match 6-0, depending on if they scored that last sequence or not, but they should have with how she had it. Again, super impressed with the changes Corbe made. She's what, 17?
Yeah.
I think like that.
They said she just turned 17.
Just turned 17. You're going into the World Championships as a 17-year-old. The sky is the limit for Corbe for this new division for 65 kilos.
What do you think she's going to wear for championships?
I hope something baller. I like the outfits. I like the look. I like that she's... You see Corbe for years. I remember seeing Corbe at...
She looks like an anime character.
Yeah. I remember seeing Corbe at the World Open for 2022.
Okay.
I was the judge on some of her matches for that event, and she was this 15-year-old, and she was always coming out in this full-length, double-sleeve, single-color rash guard, and I was like, she is visible in this entire arena, and she had really good matches then. I was very impressed with her then. But I like that she's really easy to find. Like, you cannot mistake her for anyone else
That's true.
in the tournament. And you're trying to build a brand. You're trying to build your career and grow your career. Like, get it. Do it. I love to see it. I love that it's not just random, like, shorts and T-shirts. You got it's like it's a full outfit that is your outfit, and you own it, and you're the only person in that tournament with that outfit.
Yeah, true.
I love to see it. So I'm super... I hope it's something badass. I hope it's something bad. Like, her chainmail one is badass. I like the big, bright yellow one she has. Yeah. Like, I hope it's badass for the World Championships. I hope it's sponsored. I hope that she's got a sponsorship for that. And she's
like
getting paid.
A full gold outfit.
That'd be awesome. Like, hey, you earned it. You won trials. You earned a spot there. You're at the World Championships. I want to see it.
They said she was the youngest, but I feel like what's it called? Who's younger?
66 kilo final.
Yeah, I feel like
Dorian Oliveras.
Either him or wasn't
Nicky Ryan was 15. But he didn't win trials.
No, but wasn't Cole Bate like 15? Or was he 16?
I thought he was 16.
But then she's 17. They said she just turned 17.
I think Dorian was 16.
Okay. Well, they said she was the youngest, but
17.
Maybe they meant the youngest female.
I think youngest woman.
Yeah, maybe that's what they meant.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, she technically is the youngest North American 65 kilogram champion ever.
Yeah, true.
Also the only one.
Yeah.
For the youngest qualifier.
Yes.
So
very true.
Moving on, we're going to end on this division. Women's 65 plus 65 kilogram division. We had Amanda Lev versus Elizabeth Mitrovic. Amanda Lev looked phenomenal in this match.
And all of her matches.
As always.
Yeah.
I mean, she looked as good as she looked at East Coast Trials.
Yeah.
Go listen to us talk about her at East Coast Trials. It was the same.
She also does the same thing that our friend Majid Hage does.
Yeah.
And wears a t-shirt and shorts.
I know. It's an OG wrestler thing.
Yeah.
Like, she looks like an OG wrestler.
Yeah.
And I think Amanda Lev in the beginning section of this match was winning. And then late in the match, after the overtime, it was 0-0. Elizabeth Mitrovic is doing great. I mean, we've watched Elizabeth since she was a champion at Fight to Win, early brown belt.
We watched her at Worlds. We watched her at Pans.
She's been looking. She has leveled up recently. So again, seeing her in the finals here doesn't surprise me at all. Amanda Levy, who I think was winning the initiation of this match, is clear. Because again, Amanda is such a strong power wrestler in this division. She has the experience. She's been to the Worlds before. Elizabeth is very good, but was a little bit more on the back foot.
Yeah.
Amanda goes for a takedown, and then looks like she sprains or something happens to her. It's not super big.
No, but you
happens.
see her step wrong, and then you see a reaction to her step wrong, and then you see Elizabeth immediately do what, I mean, you really should do.
Absolutely,
which
what
is
you should do.
Immediately push down the person that is having a leg problem.
Yep.
Immediately, as fast as
possible.
possible.
Which again, it's kind of weird to say, but yeah, in combat sports, like you're at a world level tournament that changes your life.
Somebody steps wrong, you go for it, man.
Absolutely, because that's part of it.
And Amanda falls, and as soon as Amanda falls, she's done.
She's tapping. She taps, and then you can see that she's kind of grabbing her leg. And from where she was grabbing, I'm guessing it's ACL. I tried to watch back the injury a couple different times. It's
a knee.
Looks like
she grabs
something
a knee,
in the knee,
and she looks like she grabs the back of a knee, which is normally your ACL.
Yeah, and we know Amanda also has had leg problems in the past. I really hope
there's the Kendall Roosing situation where she stepped wrong on her foot.
Well, Kendall also in the Worlds hit the concrete and broke her leg in a bunch of places. Again, I hope that Amanda is fine here. She doesn't look like she's fine, but I hope that she heals up. I would love to see her at the World Championships. Elizabeth Mitrovic takes this.
Yeah.
Through no fault of her own, like Elizabeth has been looking phenomenal for years, and
Yeah.
in the last couple of years since getting black belt, has just leveled up and is now, a world contender at every tournament that she's in, and a champion in many of those tournaments in
Yeah.
IBJJF. I would love to see Amanda in because she won the West Coast. She's won the West Coast before. She won the West Coast years ago in 2019. She won the East Coast in last year.
Yeah.
She looked really good in this match until the injury. But there are very few and limited female spots.
She also when she won West Coast last time, she hit under 60. She cut to under 60.
Oh, because she armbarred Maggie Grandotti in the finals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because
that was under 60, wasn't
because
it? I forgot about
she
that.
used to cut. And
she used to be
like,
at 35.
And it was like a freaking hard ass cut for her.
I remember
to make
seeing
that
her
size.
at EBI at 135. And
Yeah.
she was like, I would probably die if I ever made that again. She was
Yeah.
just emaciated, and she made it. Like, and
Yeah.
she's a professional, former pro fighter. It's super
Yeah.
unfortunate. I really like Elizabeth's game. She had some super intense. Her
Yeah.
semifinals match. I forget who she was against. I'm not gonna pull it up.
Her facial expressions,
Dude,
man.
She
looks
gets
like
intense.
she's going to kill you.
I love it.
Yeah.
So there was a I'm blanking on who it was, but it was Elizabeth Mitrovic's semifinals match before Amanda Lev, and they're standing. Elizabeth, you find her opponent. Yeah. They're standing probably 5 or 8 feet apart of each other, and they're waiting for the referee and the judge and the table judges to all like go and start the match, and they are standing bolt upright, looking at each other, not moving, and just
Bridget McAleese.
Bridget McAleese.
Yeah.
Staring at each other for a minute and a half.
They do
or
that.
2 minutes.
They do the creepy
They don't move.
Yeah.
They don't move. And it was both just eyes locked, like I am coming for it. And it was the most intense stare down I saw all weekend across all of the divisions.
Most people don't try to fuck with that, but girls.
Dude, I love it.
Girls are some
It was
crazy.
intense as shit. So Elizabeth moves on. I am ecstatic to see her move on. Again, we've been covering Liz for many, many years.
Yeah.
I remember her when she used to have a podcast with I'm blanking on the other woman's name with the podcast, but they had a funny podcast for a long time to talk about their travels and being women traveling around doing jiu-jitsu. Always some really cool stories. Elizabeth has a really cool story, and I'm really excited to see her now on the world stage here. Very well deserved. Looked phenomenal all throughout the weekend. And again, she's someone we have not seen in the ADCC Hopper before. Deserves to be there, and I can't wait to see it. So, not Amanda, Miranda.
Yes.
Any other comments on this weekend's action events? Any other matches we want to talk about before we get into the previews?
Well, like I said, we had the Devontae Johnson.
Oh yeah, early round.
Yeah, they had the early round versus now his name falls out.
You just had his name in the pre-show.
I know, because I had a picture, because I took a picture of it, because I was like, I need to know this name.
That's crazy.
His name is Cody Linton. He hit a foot sweep, and at one point when Devontae Johnson comes to Turtle, he just grabs his arm and like swings behind him and takes his back, and it was crazy, and it was not expected, and it was
I love those first round crazy matchups.
Yeah, it was super. It was first round. And no one expected it to happen.
Because Devontae, we expected him to see him in like the semis or the finals or at worst the quarters. Like again, that's one of the reasons I love trials though, is sometimes you run against like a dude feeling himself having a great day and just punches through, and it's great. Again, to win the trials, you essentially have to beat everyone in your division, no matter where you sit, no matter where you lie. You got to beat them all or beat the guy that beat that guy. Yeah. And so it's a really cool tournament. So we'll probably have more on this next week.
Yeah. I watched a lot of day one, but I also kind of jumped around to the people that I wanted to see. Like I watched all of Majid's matches, his early matches.
Yeah.
He was armbarring the shit out of people.
Kyle Chamber took him out, which is really surprising. He counter heel hooked him.
I saw that.
Majid kind of like decided to run on a heel hook.
Yeah, they were like going into legs, and I was like, what the hell is going on?
They went, and that's again, Majid typically has had some problems in the past with that, but that was a really interesting shootout that Chambers was able to take, because again, Chambers is such a good submission hunter.
Chambers also had his hair on point.
He did.
Bright red. And he had the kid and play look, if you're from the 80s and you understand what that reference is. Yeah. And then who else do we have?
Honestly, all the brackets were, I spent the majority of Easter Day with my family looking at my phone. And every time I'd talk to my family, I go, look, World Trials. And they go, oh, yeah, they know who I am as a person.
They know by now?
They were like, they know. No one gave me shit at all. They just knew because I told them, I was like, look, it's World Trials. And they went, we understand how big of a deal that is to you. Have a happy Easter. Let's hang out. And you sit in front of your phone and watch World Trials.
Well, I watched him in the morning because I had nothing to do. And I got to watch a lot of fun matches. Who else? Let me think.
Adam Bradley beat Kyle Bain. That was interesting. That was a very close match. What other big matches did we have? We also move into the previews. Some of the, honestly, 66 and 77 have some of the crazy, like AJ Agazarm versus Deandre Corbe. And Deandre subs AJ Agazarm. And then immediately has to fight Gianni Grippo.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, former world silver medalist, and then Gianni Grippo, 9-time IBJJF Pan champion, former trials winner. Like,
Agazarm is one match. I have it marked because I want to watch it because some guy goes to bolo him and he does some weird little almost like foot circle and gets himself completely out of it. Like he sits foot circles and is out. And I'm like,
I have a guy that I train with now that trained a bunch with Grippo and always talks about just how insanely wildly good he is and stuff like that.
Agazarm?
No. My guy trains with Grippo.
Oh, okay.
And always speaks very, very highly of his technical ability.
I was talking about Agazarm.
Oh, Agazarm.
I watched Agazarm get out of a bolo and he did this weird foot thing that I need to learn. It's from his last match that he won. He was also being he is being coached by Paulo Miao, I believe.
Yeah.
So
they're boys.
Yeah. So
he's repping GB again, which we thought he left GB for a while.
He's always been repping GB because even at IBJJF, he's in a Gracie Baja. He's been GB. I thought for a year he left Northridge. He left GB Northridge. I thought for a year he wasn't Northridge. He wasn't GB anymore. But I thought it was a big deal he left, and then he looks like he's back now. But I could have sworn he left. I think he's been wearing GB the whole time. He might not be Northridge, but he's been definitely wearing it.
Yeah,
the entire time.
I want to go back and watch the round of 16 onward for the men's 66 kilo division. In that division, we had Keith Krikorian, 37-second sub, Ricky Lule from 10th Planet versus Richard Alarcon in that division, Elliot Holy versus Elliot. I'm blanking on Elliot's first name. Jordan Holy was in that round. Damian Anderson got beat by Sean Weisenberg, who would then, the next round, Jordan Holy would go and beat Sean Weisenberg. We had Johnny Grippo and R. Golden from Atos. We had AJ Agazarm, Deandre Corbe, Ryan LaFleur versus Gavin Corbe, and Dominic Mejia. LaFever. Always want to call him LaFleur, like the UFC fighter.
Yeah.
And Dominic Mejia also in that round. That was an absolute, that is a round of 16 that you could put at any cash prize and cash major event, and people would tune up for it and pay for the pay-per-view. That's a insanely stacked round. We also have Cameron Hurd here in the round of 16, local guy to us. We have Oliver Taza in that round. We have Andrew Tackett versus Kyle Chambers. That's subbed. I haven't seen that yet. Andrew Tackett versus Andy Varela. Haven't seen that yet. John Combs versus Andy Varela. We've all seen that now. That's in 77. There's some absolutely insane matches. Oliver Taza versus Max Hansen goes to decision in the semifinals.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about that match. That kind of shows you how good Max Hansen is and why we're so excited to see him versus Elijah Dorsey.
Yeah.
Overall, just a wild tournament. As we move on to the consolation brackets, in 66 kilogram for the consolations, let's make us do it this way. We had Gavin Corbe beating Jordan Holy to take third place. In consolation for the 77 kilogram division, we have Max Hansen beating Andy Varela by sub. Didn't know that happened. Gonna go back and watch that.
No, Varela won. Varela sub.
Oh, my bad. Okay, that makes
Varela subbed Hansen.
Okay, that makes sense. And then in 88 for the consolation, we have Elder Cruz beating Chris Wojcik from B Team by points. In the consolation for under 99, we had Kyle Bain beating Dan Gatto Dashi Goto from Web MMA. He's close to us, isn't he?
Yeah, he's outside of Philly.
Yep. By sub in 249. And then the plus 99 for the men, we have Brandon Reed beating Nick Paca. For the women, we have in the under 55 kilogram, we have Amanda Bruce, or Tammy Musamechi beating Amanda Bruce via points. In the under 65 kilogram consolation bracket, we have Leilani Bernales.
Yeah.
Get it right. Beating Nicole Matthews by points. And in the plus 65 kilogram division for the women, we have Jennifer Case beating Bridget McLeese via submission.
Yep.
So I need to go back and watch all those consolation brackets matches
Yeah.
because I haven't seen them yet.
Well,
and they're
it was-
always amazing.
Yeah, and it was also hard because they were kind of running them as they were running semifinals. And if you watched Flow Zone, you could only watch one screen at a time.
And you were watching the semifinals
Yeah.
because those were like
Well, and
you were seeing who would qualify.
Yeah,
for
there was
it.
a couple matches where I definitely went off of Flow Zone and watched whatever the one was in the
like
background.
I watched part of the Max Hansen and Varela match.
Yeah.
So overall, a phenomenal tournament. I have a lot to go back and rewatch. Miranda, any thoughts on the event as a whole?
No.
I'm going to the next one. I cannot wait for the World Championships here. So let's move on. Let's talk about. We have a couple matches happening next weekend.
First of all, we have. Did you talk about Ethan getting invited?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In the news section.
Okay.
Yep, we talked about that.
Okay.
So let's move on to One FC. We have Tye Ruotolo versus Isaac Michell. Let's talk about that one first. This is a title fight, I think, for 85. This is a match we've wanted to see for a long time. This is a match both Tye and Isaac have wanted for a long time. Isaac called Tye out. I think he's called him out a couple of times. This is the match to make.
Yeah, then I had some scheduling.
Yep, a scheduling issue and an injury. Yeah. We're not sure who had the injury.
Yeah. But
it's happening. I think you on the pre-show. What was your line on the pre-show? I was like, who you gonna pick?
I said I'm going for Tye because he's Tye.
Yeah.
And there's no reason to go against Tye at this point.
There's not. I think also in the One FC rule set, Tye is just he's more of an action fighter.
Yeah.
And he is more willing to throw the subs.
Yeah, and the other one is Isaac Michell has been doing a
seminar tour.
Like a seminar tour. So when you're on a seminar tour, I don't know how many good training days you're getting and where are you getting them at. Unless you're traveling with the person that you then...
Your main training partner or coach or something?
Yeah, then it's maybe a little bit different. But I'm thinking, it's not like he's doing a full day of training. I mean, maybe he is after he's teaching. But you're not going with randoms because randoms will break you. So,
for dumb stuff.
So it just... I don't know what his training schedule looks like right now or who he's with, where we know Tye has... basically an exact copy of himself.
It's also a world champion.
That he fights on a regular basis, probably. Yeah. On a daily basis, I'm sure.
And if they're in Costa Rica, if they're
Plus,
wherever.
And then they also have AJ Agazarm that comes down and chills with them. They have...
we know their training situation. Their training situation is a little bit more of a known quantity. Really, for me, it's like, I think that, again, I typically on the show don't pick against the champion, Ty's the champ. Or I think this is for the belt.
No, I think they both have belts. I think both Tye and Kade both have belts.
Okay.
I'll double check the picture, but I think they both have belts.
I just think that Tye has a better style for One FC for the catch system. Like, again, you catch something, and then you're going to get a point for that. Essentially, that's what the judges score it against is how many catches you get. And Isaac Michell we saw him open up a little bit at Asian Trials, be much more willing to sub hunt, but that mostly is guys that kind of weren't as close to Tye's level. Like, Tye is one of the upper echelon grapplers of the world, beyond most of the guys you're ever going to run into at Trials. I just think that overall he's going to have a more consistent camp and a more friendly style. I think he's going to be willing to wrestle. He's going to be more lanky. He's just going to have a bunch of places that Isaac Michell, unless he can get to Tye's back and hold him there, which we've seen him do, that is, I think, the only way that Isaac Michell will probably be able to beat Tye Ruotolo is if he's able to take him down and get his back. And I just don't see Tye being willing to get held down or able to get held down.
And this is the Tye Ruotolo match is a championship match. The Kade match is a catchweight match at 180.
Okay, because Francisco Lowe or Tye is going up. Or sorry, Kade is going up to 180.
Kade is going up to 180.
Yeah, from welterweight.
Yeah, and who knows how big Francisco is?
But he's going to make 185.
But I think he jumps around.
Yeah, he kind of does Oliver Taza. He jumps between like 8. I think Lowe is a little bigger, but so that's my pick for Tye. Again, would love to see Isaac, put a great performance on, but I just think that it is far easier here to pick Kade. To pick Tye. I keep doing this. To pick Tye But Isaac has surprised us, numerous times before. He's a Trials champion. He won Who's Next. He's put on amazing performances against tough guys before.
Yeah.
I think it's a great match to make. It's a great match to make. Moving on to Kade versus Francisco Lowe. This is more of an X Factor match because Francisco is going to be the bigger guy. Kade doesn't care. He just literally did the open in the gi.
But they both also love the crazy takedown, the crazy weird flying. Submissions. Both of them.
Literally, the thing that put Francisco Lowe on the map for us was the jumping flying armbar over Oliver Taza in an IBJJF event.
And it was like a triangle armbar.
Yeah. And that's where we're like, who is that guy? Because Oliver Taza is very good, and like no one does that to Taza.
This might be a match where they both try to fly each other at the same time and just smack into each other.
Just to get the scissor groin?
Yeah.
Honestly, that kind of wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I think Francisco Lowe has a really, really good style for One FC, and being the bigger guy, I think Francisco Lowe is very, very good. In Nogi, he's still very, very good. I actually think this potentially could be a little closer than we think it is. Yeah. It wouldn't be insane to me to have Francisco Lowe be able to take this because he can just leverage more size against Kade. Yeah. I think Cade's going to be more comfortable in the cage.
Yeah, but you also have a cage to work with, so you can push somebody up against a cage. And you can.
Yes.
Who did Francisco Lowe he just switched teams? Did he go to Checkmat?
No idea.
I think he went to Checkmat.
Was it Francisco Lowe?
Yeah, because he just switched.
Was it AOJ? Everyone seems to be going to AOJ.
No, I don't think he went to AOJ. But I want to say he switched teams recently.
Okay.
Let's see.
Level X Black?
Yeah. Checkmat. Checkmat Dallas.
Okay, he's Checkmat now.
Yeah. So that means he's potentially with the Tacketts. They're Checkmat.
But they're
not Dallas. They're Austin.
They're Austin. Yeah.
Still Dallas and Austin.
Not that close.
They're close.
They're not. They're hours away.
Okay. Maybe not.
This is interesting. I think again we know Kade. He's a very known quantity in ADCC and in One FC. The fact that he's doing IBJJF and One still makes me hopeful that he's going to be in ADCC. I think it would be a travesty to not have him in ADCC. Francisco Lowe being a little on the bigger side. But again, if Cade's also going to put on some mass for this, we know Kade does typically cut to get down for his weight class. I think that this is closer. I think Kade will have more catches. He is more familiar with the rule set. And Francisco Lowe is going to probably throw hard early.
Yeah.
And then Kade, I think, will be able to sustain that pace for the entirety of the match in a way that Francisco can't as much.
Yeah.
And then late in the match, we're going to see a big catch from Kade, probably on a leg.
Okay. I could see that.
That's what I think. We're going to see a catch on the leg. And then it'll kind of look like Gabriel Almeida. Okay. Not Gabriel Almeida. Mateus Gabriel.
Yeah. That
match where it was like very, very close, but Kade was still in the driver's seat, especially late, but unable to really get past his guard. I think, Mateus Gabriel has a better guard than Francisco Lowe does, but he's also much smaller than Francisco Lowe is. And I think Francisco Lowe, having the size advantage here, could potentially be a little bit of a deciding factor. I'm going to pick Kade here by catches. It wouldn't be insane for me to see him finish Francisco Lowe, but I think he's going to take it on a decision. Yeah. I think Francisco Lowe is super, super savvy. He's been competing at the highest levels, and I think Kade takes it on catches. Probably a catch on a darce, probably a catch on a leg, at least, but it would kind of surprise me to see him put away Francisco Lowe.
Yeah.
Would not surprise me to see him put away Francisco Lowe.
I don't think he's going to put him down. I don't think he's going to put him away. I think Kade will win. But I think Francisco put up a good fight, and
Absolutely.
I think it'll be a lot closer. I think Francisco will get at least 1 or 2 catches on him.
Yeah,
but it'll be early.
And
then I think Kade will take it away after, because Kade has tendency to he doesn't stop.
He kicks that other gear that you're like, how do you still have more gas? And you're like, I still got it, bro.
Yeah.
Him and his brother both kind of do that. They're like, you're still going.
Yeah,
and I love it. So that does it for One FC. Again, the whole card looks good. We're just going to talk about the grappling matches because that's typically what we do. We also have Subversion this weekend. Main eventing Subversion is Ffion Davies versus Nikki Lloyd Griffith. I don't think these two ladies have gone against each other before.
Think so either.
I really like Nikki Lloyd Griffith's game, but we've talked about it on the show. I am not picking anyone against Ffion.
Yeah.
Her passing looks phenomenal. Look at her versus Brianna Stamarie.
Yeah.
Like 2 weeks ago. Brianna, silver medalist ADCC in the weight class. that finals was close in ADCC, or close-ish in ADCC. Ffion ran away with it at who's number one and made it not close. Only kind of wrinkle in this could be if it's in the gi. But even then, I'm going to pick Ffion. I do think it's no gi.
Yeah, I think it's no gi because the pictures are no gi.
Okay, I would pick it.
Yeah.
Ffion is, I think, pound for pound, the best woman right now competing.
Yes.
I think easily pound for pound, if not one of the best, regardless of pound for pound.
She's been subbing everybody.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
And not making any mistakes.
Yeah.
Or if she makes mistakes, she like capitalizes on the mistake and somehow makes it into a good thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I wish I had kind of more to run through about like Ffion. There is not a play again unless you are Elizabeth Clay and can footlocker.
Yeah.
Like that is the only reason we've seen Ffion lose, in the last while is that match and via footlock. I'm picking Ffion all day until someone shows me that they're Jansen Gomez versus Tyan Dalpra.
Yeah.
Until that happens, I'm picking Ffion. We were going to have her boyfriend Gabriel Souza on this. Gabriel Souza, very, very, world level partner, world level competitor as well. Gabriel Souza versus David Stoley on this match. That match has been replaced with Josh Peach Stolten versus David Stoley. We also on this card have Ash Williams versus a guy I'm not super familiar with, Ali El Khair. Any Australian listeners or folks over in New Zealand in that area can give me, again, a better pronunciation on his name.
Wasn't he from Drag? Isn't Drag?
Oh, yeah, right. He is, he's the drag guy.
Yeah.
He is Ash's guy.
Yeah, but I think he's from another Drag.
Okay.
Because I think I looked him up for a minute.
I'm not really familiar with him. Again, I'm usually not picking Ash. Like, go back, watch. We just saw how good Keith is. Go back and watch Ash Williams' match versus Keith Krikorian at Grapple Fest. Like, that gives you a bar of how good Ash is. Go back and watch Ash at Trials. Looked phenomenal at Trials.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
I'm looking.
So that's the Subversive Cry. I think Subversion. I was called Subversive. Subversion.
He's from
and it's on Flow.
Oh, no, I'm wrong. He's Sydney West.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, he's Sydney West?
Yeah.
Okay. So I can tell you that Sydney West put more guys on the podium at ADCC than anyone else for those trials. And he did really, really well at the trials, too.
Yeah, but no, that's 22. That's 2022. He had second place in 2022. But he also does, like, freestyle wrestling, it looks like.
The Hungry Jacks thing? Hungry Jacks is Burger King, by the way, in Australia.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's because there's a trademark dispute that they lost.
Oh, really?
In, like, the 90s. Yeah.
Oh, really?
So they have to be Hungry Jacks in Australia.
Yeah, but Hungry Jacks Wrestling Super Series.
Yeah, so he's a wrestler. He's a good wrestler. This will be fun. Again, we know Ash has good wrestling. I'm not super familiar with Ali El Khair, but very good grappler based on the smooth comp results. So should be a lot of fun. Definitely one to watch out for. Should be on Flow. We are not going to cover it this next week. We will cover next week our ADCC, like everyone you need to know about, all the qualifiers' names this next week because I'm out of town and we're not going to miss a show. I'll do that for y'all. And then the following week after that, we will cover Subversion, One FC, and
anything else if it shows up.
Anything else that shows up at that time. So, Miranda, what's your week look like?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out what my week holds. So we'll see. We'll see.
I'm doing Eclipse stuff. My brother's gonna fly into town in a couple of days, and my wife and I are gonna. Then I'm gonna go. Hey, you work for one of those places. Look at the clouds and tell us where we're going to drive out to. And then we're going to take a couple of days to literally drive somewhere in the United States for the path of totality for the solar eclipse. I got some telescopes. I got some camera gear. We're going to go out and do some filming for the solar eclipse. And I'm super excited about that. Get a chance to see my brother and hang out with, my wife and him somewhere in the country. We're going to probably car camp, and we're all three of us are on board to car camp wherever we have to go see this thing. So
that's fun.
It'll be good. Yeah. It'll be fun. I'm hoping we don't have to drive to Texas, but my brother has very much informed me that he goes, hey, if we have to drive to Texas, we're going to go. And I'm like, I'm not going to be happy about it, but we're going to go. It is a hike, but again, it's the last solar eclipse in the United States for the next 20 years. And I'm excited to go do it. I got some telescope gear. I got some camera gear now. I got some solar filters. I got the solar glasses. I am on board for it. And so it'll be fun. Haven't seen my brother in a couple of months, and it's always fun to travel with my wife.
We were supposed to talk about Andy Rella slapping a purple belt.
Yeah.
Because you said we were going to talk that in the outro.
It got chippy.
Got a little chippy in some of the matches.
It got chippy. Walt, the ref for ADCC, stepped in. Again, I'm not a huge fan of when it gets that chippy.
Yeah.
Overall, I think that there needs to be if you're gonna club that hard, you have to be doing something on it. And it kind of hits him in the face.
It was a kick. It was a kick. It started with a kick.
Sort of a push kick. Yeah.
A push kick, and then the push kick became a bitch slap.
Yeah.
He bitch slapped him. And it was not. It was not like, oh, I accidentally.
He hit him in the face.
He full hand slapped him.
And he
gets
a negative for it. I think one of them.
No, afterward, that happens. He makes them shake hands. And I guess agree not to be dicks to each other. And then later on, it happens again. And then they take a point away from him.
Yeah, which I think is very reasonable. Again, I that's not what we're doing at ADCC. You can do what Wagner does where he gets in your face, but he's tying you.
Yeah.
He's doing something with it if you react.
He's not
there's a difference to it.
He's not just slapping you across the face.
Yeah, but again, Verl's very good. He doesn't have to do that.
Yeah.
I would prefer that.
But he's a very
that.
imposing gentleman.
He's an intense guy. Verl's a super intense guy when he competes. Again, one of the things we loved about him at the last West Coast Trials was just how intense he was and how phenomenal he looked. I just personally would prefer not to see as much of that because I think it gets in the way of the grappling.
Well, IBJJF just DQs you if you do that shit.
Yeah. Which I honestly think it's not.
Because remember the whole situation with the one guy?
Francisco Lowe. It was Francisco Lowe.
It was. The club versus the club. And
then Francisco gets DQ'd and goes, that's reasonable. Yeah. And then the other guy goes, that's reasonable. But, yeah, so that happened. There were some great matches this weekend, but that's what I got going on this week. We're going to record probably a midweek show. That's why we're kind of doing an interim show so that we don't miss a week on the Grappling Room because at this point we're 340 almost episodes in a row without missing one.
Wow.
I'm not going to jinx it, but keep the streak going for y'all. Again, we have plenty of folks across the world that listen.
And I can't do this camera equipment without him around because I have no idea how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, we have all the boards, the camera equipment, the TVs, the mics. Everything you don't see behind the camera is a pretty large collection of equipment.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I do not have the ability to operate. Yeah, so
I could teach you.
Unless we want to do a show on Miranda's phone, which would be horrible.
Why is the audio so bad, man? I don't know, man. Miranda's run it this week.
I ran it this week on my phone.
So we're gonna run that show the next couple of days, and then we'll get it out to you normal time Tuesday. So again, if there may be a gap if we get comments or questions or whatnot like we usually do or feedback, there may be a gap before that ends up back on the show. But we always appreciate it. And Miranda, I got nothing else.
No, I got nothing else.
As always on the show, I am your host Maine, with the co-host
Miranda,
and we are the Grappling Rewind. Saying that what it is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.